Hello, and welcome back to another encouraging, inspiring, and including episode of the Achieving Unity Leadership System weekly podcast, where we help turn chaos into connection, purpose into action, and protection into confidence and peace of mind. I am your host, Mark Entrekin, founder of the Achieving Unity Leadership System, also known as the Unity Leadership System. And it is available at www.achievingunityleadershipsystem.com, which is dedicated to improving, protecting, and sharing lives through encouraging, inspiring, and including others, which makes it so easy through great leadership. I am honored today to introduce Alex Shahid and Andy Entrekin with LegalShield and IDShield. Together, we'll talk about how clarity, preparation, and access to the right support can reduce stress before issues escalate. If you value calm decision-making, protecting what matters most, and turning chaos into connection, I invite you to learn more in this. Lean in and bring your questions. We will be asking questions. My virtual assistant will be watching the chat. If you have a few questions, let us know. We appreciate it. Because today we're having a real conversation about leadership, protection, and reducing everyday stress. So much of our stress today does not come from emergencies. It comes from uncertainty, not knowing who to call, not knowing your options, not knowing if help is affordable. But before we delve into this insightful discussion, let me briefly introduce my company, Reality Focused Dynamics, where it all began. You can see on the first slide, the Achieving Unity podcast. Put this on your calendar. Come back and see us every week. These are, as we said, real conversation for leaders that we see every day to day navigating division, frustration, and change. Go to the next slide, Renee. Leadership too many times feels harder than it should. Things have gone a little bit crazy with all of the computers and the phones that we have today and the technology we have today. Now we have the artificial intelligence, the AI. Disconnection is growing in so many ways. Even though we have so many ways now to communicate, it's difficult because frustration is draining people, draining teams, coming home at night, the road rage, going to work in the morning, going to the office, road rage. Somebody's always in a hurry. So we need to work on solving that, slowing that down with some of our protection. And how do we do that? Well, first off, we do have to say good intentions. Our good intentions are sometimes colliding with real world pressure. One thing I share with everyone, unity is not a soft skill. Unity, that's just being nice to people. No, it's not a soft skill. It is a leadership strategy, what we all need to do, working together, helping each other, protecting ourselves and our family. Next slide, Renee, please. Thank you. What we mean by achieving unity. What is unity? It's encouraging process without disabling, without, while enabling, without, I'm beginning to myself, disabling dysfunction. We don't want to enable dysfunction, we want to disable dysfunction. There's so many people like me trying to get the words out of my mouth. We want to remove dysfunction from our lives, build on what we can do and go forward. Inspiring action without forcing agreement. How many times do we just sit there and just nod our heads? And we may not agree, but we don't know what to do. We're a little bit confused, including some of the voices that we have that are maintaining accountability. They can be challenging. We need to be working together, helping each other build better businesses, better lives, and a better world, one conversation at a time. And that's me. I'm your host, Mark Entrekin, founder of the Reality Focused Dynamics and the Achieving Unity Leadership System. I work with leaders, teams, and families navigating conflict. I want to help people in change, complexity, helping us all move forward with clarity, unity, and sustainable action. What I am is focused, facilitating on clear, unified, sustainable execution and delivery. That's all of us being focused in our lives to take us to that next step forward. And you can reach me at 303 Focused. That's my phone number, 303-362-8733. Let's go to the next slide. Let's talk a little bit further about what focused is. Focused for each of us on our lives, our personal lives, our family lives. It's to facilitate or facilitating tough conversations that build trust. Some people don't like to hear about the stresses that we have. What caused this stress? What caused that stress? And we don't know where to go. We want to make sure it's on common ground, shared purpose. We'll make sure that we're all going in that right direction. And that's where that achieving unity comes in as we reach out to others. We want to be clear in our communication and our agreements. And we need that protection so that we know we do have someone to go to anytime the situation arises. We need to be unified. So much action across differences. We see prejudice in so many ways. It can be something as simple as income level. It could be education level, race, creed, color, age, anything that people find about discrimination. We need to quit that. We need to stop that. We need to work together in unifying it and have the protection that we can do something when the situation arises. We have to be sustainable, results that last. Execution, we have to think that it's action that we have to focus on, not just talking about it, not nodding our head, but taking that action, consistent and responsible action. And then delivery, inspired growth and lasting change. Focused, FOCUSED. You can call me anytime at 303 Focused. Hope to talk to you soon. Renee? And I said, contact us. Let's promote clear, sustainable action, starting now, starting today. And what we're going to learn today is going to give us more insight, more of a foundation about protecting ourselves. But reach out to explore coaching, courses, and workshops, speaking engagements. Let me know what I can do to help you. Because achieving unity is the path to stronger relationships, inspired leadership, and lasting change. You'll see it again later, but there's my LegalShield URL at the bottom. Use that to get in touch with me. markentrican.legalshieldassociate.com, because I am an associate with the two people that are talking today. Let me get into those more of that in a second before I introduce them. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide and build upon our next conversations, because this is, again, a weekly process. And we want to make sure that you're here every week. Next week is going to be Steve Cohen, and I believe he is in our audience today. So on Wednesday, February 18th, we'll be asking some important questions. Who cares for the caregivers? I'll be joined by Steve Cohen next week for a thoughtful conversation about redefining resilience in healthcare and leadership. It's not listed on the screen, but on March 18th, we'll be joined by Teresa Cizurek to explore technology and management solutions, entrepreneurship, and her passion and performance success formula. Put this on your calendar. Come back and see us each and every week. I know Steve wants you to be here next week to talk more about our caregivers and who is caring for them. But today's guest, and I, again, am so excited. The two friends of mine, they're close friends. I work with them on almost a daily basis. We will welcome Shahid. He is the Regional Vice President, and Andy Entrekin, a Regional Manager. They're leaders with LegalShield and IDShield. It's an organization dedicated to providing legal and identity protection. We hear all the time now about the people whose credit cards are stolen, their sites are stolen, the companies that are breaking in and stealing information. How are we protected? Well, that's what they will talk to us about today, and providing that help and that support for individuals, families, and small businesses, including entrepreneurs. Even the smallest of businesses, you need protection. We all need protection. They're drawing on years of experience in legal services, client advocacy, and risk management. Alex and Andy help people gain clarity, reduce uncertainty, and protect what matters most before issues escalate. Their work combines practical guidance with actionable strategies showing how preparation, protection, and informed decision making can empower people to navigate life's challenges with confidence and what we all need a little bit more of, peace of mind. But before we go to that, I'm going to give you one more little QR code. Go to get a hold of me. I know this works on your telephone. Anywhere you are, here's the QR code to my LegalShield address. Please go to it now, put it on your phone, save it. Another way to contact me. Let's get together. Let's work together toward that achieving unity leadership system with the protection that we all need each and every day. Now, Renee will bring on Andy and Alex. There they are. Hey, Alex, how are you? Andy will come
I'm
on here in a
doing
second.
fantastic.
Good. Good to see you both. It's so nice of you to be here. It's an exciting moment because it was many years ago that I didn't know what Legal Shield was, what ID Shield was. Why would I need it? Why would I want to pay that kind of money? What is it for me? So if you would, Alex, we'll start with you. I know you got to, I think you said you have to leave for about 20 minutes. So we're going to start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, and then we'll go get Andy introduce himself.
Absolutely. Well, it's my pleasure to be here. And for the audience, hello to all that are listening. Mark, it's an honor to be speaking here. Steve, great to have you in the audience as well. And with here with one of my best friends, Andy Entrekin. And my story is that 15 years ago, I was a 22-year-old college kid that was trying to figure out what to do with a marketing degree. And my father's a small business owner, and his father started the business in 1959. So entrepreneurship and small business ownership was not new to me. But as a millennial who had lived through the economic collapse or the Great Recession of 2009, 8, 9, I saw that small business owners, though they seemed to have all the time and freedom, unfortunately slept like babies. And what I mean by that is they woke up every 30 minutes crying. And so I didn't know that.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I didn't know that that's what I wanted for my future, but I wanted the autonomy and freedom. So I didn't know how to marry both, but my mind was thankfully like a parachute. It worked best when it's open. And so I was trying to navigate college, figuring out what those next steps might look like. I was serving tables nights and weekends, and I was a personal trainer because I loved health and fitness, still do today. And one of my training clients said, "Hey, man, I'm working on a business project. Would you like to see what I do?" I'm an intrinsically curious person, so that's all you have to say to me to get me to look at something. And it was Legal Shield. And, Mark, honestly, what went through my head, being a son of an entrepreneur, being an only child, I navigated a lot of life's problems alone because of being an only child, not having brothers and sisters, the contrasting story of Mr. Andy Entrekin. But it's not the lack of problems that we face in life. The question isn't, will we have problems? Yes, of course. Without gravity, a plane can't fly. So adversity is required to excel, I believe. But the question is, will you face that adversity alone or with partners? And maybe it's not because I was an only child. Maybe somebody else listening that may or may not be an only child would say that I would rather traverse the terrain of life with partners that can help go the way and show the way, and maybe take some potholes and some turns that would likely cause me to wreck, smooth them over or point them out. And so when I realized there was a service out there that from the palm of your hand can allow you to have peace of mind. I don't know how much peace of mind should cost, but I knew how much I was probably willing to pay for it. And it would have been a heck of a lot more than what the app cost. And I guess maybe because I was raised around entrepreneurs or I was looking for opportunities, maybe I was just hyper aware of what next steps for me look like. I said, if you can market something that everybody can afford, everybody truly needs, but most people don't know about, you can probably make some good money. A mentor of mine says if you market to the masses, you can live with the classes. And I said, that sounds like a good idea. If I'd invented the paperclip, or if I'd invented the coffee sleeve, those are two big problems that were solved. If Mark Zuckerberg was in my dorm room, don't we wish that we would have invested in that? Hindsight's always 2020. I check the markets every day, and I'm like, oh man, if I'd have just invested in
Oh,
that
yes.
here, I could have made a fortune. Because it's easy to connect the dots looking back, a little bit more difficult connecting them looking forward. And so I'm excited to be here today. Mark, I'll share as little or as much of the story as I have time to do. And so that's just a little bit about me. And I'll turn it back over to you for any questions or guidance on direction.
I think that's Alex. Of course, for me, I know so much about you already. I'm impressed with what you do, how you speak, what you talk about. Your story is so opening for what we need to know and what we need to do. And I love your quotes. And the baby waking up crying every 30 minutes. That's a good one. I'm going to have to remember that one.
Yes.
But you talk about the truth and the things that we do need to know about for protection. But let's go to Andy. Let's get Andy on here. Let's get him because you and him work together quite a bit.
We
So
do.
let's get Andy over here to maybe introduce himself a little bit. Hi, Andy. How's your day going?
Absolutely. Well, my name's Andy Entrekin. It's a pleasure to be on this podcast with you today, Mark, and my best friend
Thank
Alex over
you.
here. I love hearing his story because our stories are so different, but our paths align to where we were, had the privilege to work together and, had a lot of the similar desires in life and business, except I learned it the hard way. He saw one thing and he's like, I don't really know if I want that. I'm going to find a better way. I experienced the way that where entrepreneurship led me in high school to create a business, which ultimately, because I didn't really know exactly what I was doing, I created a job, a business that ran
Oh,
um, solely on my involvement. A real successful business operates with or without you. True success in entrepreneurship is creating a system, creating a business that works whether you're there or not. Which is kind of why we chose this path to do what we do now professionally. I started a landscaping business in high school. I'm one of nine kids. I was number six, so I had to be entrepreneurial or get a job. And if I got a job, I didn't have time to do anything nights and weekends with my friends, family, or church. But my dad helped me start a business and helped me learn how if you find a tool that solves a problem for a lot of people, you can always have, you basically, he helped me see like find a tool that solves a problem and ask for a price to solve it, and you can make a lot of money. But it wasn't about money for me. It was about being able to do, having that freedom that Alex talked about, that I could actually, have income, but also have impact in not just my life, but the lives of others. So I found
that's so
Legal
true.
Shield and the services found me through a friend about a decade ago, and he reached out to offer it to me, to my business, my employees, and myself. And I didn't think it was going to be something that I needed because of my brother, who's a great lawyer. And shortly after that, after hearing about it, something came up that I needed quick access to answers and clarity. And I was stressed out about a situation where somebody T-boned one of my trucks and their insurance company lied to me. And I spent a bunch of money that I was out on and they wouldn't pay me back. And then I get sued by the other driver. And it turns into this whole
Oh,
ordeal. And the service that we're here to talk about today saved my life financially. And whenever that happened, I realized it wasn't something that was too good to be true. It was too good for me not to tell everybody that I meet and know and do business with about. So started part-time now. That's all that I do. And I'm excited to be on this mission with you and with Alex. And I know we're going to help a lot of people. We have a tool that solves a problem and multiple problems that every individual, family, and business goes through. So we have something that the masses need. The masses don't know about because we don't spend a bunch of marketing dollars. We spend money on results, not marketing. And we
right.
rely on people that have a big heart that care about others to market it because there's nothing better than word of mouth. So that's part of my story. I'll throw it back to you for a question or two for Alex because I know his time is of the essence here. And you'll get to hear a little bit more from me as we go on.
At the end of this, thank you. I appreciate that. Let's take it back to Alex just quick because you are a little bit short on time. But through your story earlier, how can we, I guess, talk about why the legal or identity stress, as I call it, because I don't call it legal as much as a legal shield. I do a stress shield. But how does that usually start so much before people even realize they need help? How does
Yeah,
that happen? Why?
that's a great question, Mark. And I was thinking of an analogy earlier. People don't need batteries; they need power. The reason we keep batteries at the house is because when the flashlight goes out in the storm, if you don't have the battery and you have to use your phone and you can't recharge it because the power's out, you're going to be out of luck. And so, you got those double D batteries that you barely ever use, but when you need them, it's imperative that they work. And so I find in life, we have mitigated our stress in other situations, having car batteries, having a phone charger, having different things to make the stuff that works in our lives, our family unit, work better, work easier, work without friction or stress. And today I've found that in my life growing up, being that I was an only child, I can't say that I was always on the straight and narrow path. I'd gotten into a little trouble as a kid. And I
Mm.
saw how my parents needed to pay money to help with some of those things. And I think today, when people make better decisions and they're prepared and educated, it's like if I needed advice on, which Andy's very good at, is a little handiwork, like fixing his car. I think he replaced the whole engine in his F-250 one time.
Wow.
That was impressive to me. I would have had to call a mechanic at the very least, if not take it to his shop. But if I wanted to replace an engine, I would need to call somebody that specialized in that. I don't know the valves and where to put them. And so many times in life, people are making finger crossed and Google decisions. And so, just a little bit about Legal Shield. It was established back in 1972 by accident. The founder was a teacher during the day and sold insurance at night, and he was hitting a head-on collision. And he had car insurance to replace the vehicle, medical insurance for the hospital bills, life insurance in case he passed away. Thank God he did not. But he didn't ever assume that he would need legal insurance because it didn't exist. But he was sued for an accident he didn't cause. And fast forward to today, 2026, 54 years or 55 years after the company was created, people realize that there are issues they're not well equipped to solve. But at $300 to $500 an hour, they tend to just deal with those issues when they arise. That would be the equivalent of your dentist saying, just brush and floss the teeth you want to keep. It's like, no,
Exactly.
I think I want to keep all of them. So what do they say? Proper preparation prevents poor performance. And unfortunately, in life today, people check their checkbook before they check their rights. The first thing I ever used it for, I bought it for speeding tickets. I'm going to be honest. I suffer from LRF, stands for lead right foot. And I got too many
Let right
tickets.
foot.
And so my dad had to pay $1,600 to an attorney to help keep the points off my record. And it worked. I was speeding. I was guilty. $1,600 later, it leveled the playing field and no points went on my record. And what I learned by that, interestingly enough, is that the color of justice isn't black or white, it's green. And the people with the money tend to get the results. And most people can't afford to be a part of that legal country club. You're going to get the bottom 10%. Public defenders, the top 10% don't sign a birthday card without having their attorney review it first. And the 80% in the middle, what do you do there? And that's where a majority of the income is generated in America is from the working class, those 80% in the middle. So what are we doing to protect them? So the first thing that I ever used it for, DirecTV overcharged me $34 and change for a pay-per-view football game when I was a student at Alabama. I was in the stadium watching the game, figured they'd put it on my next month's credit or next month's bill if I actually owed it. 7.5 months later, I turned in my cable box and went home from the summer. That's when I got the letter. I said, "You mean to tell me a digital program lived in a physical box? Are you kidding me? Like, either your billing department sucks or this is a scam. There's no way." And I waited on hold for 30 minutes, like many of you have done, waiting on customer care, customer service. And nobody seemed to be able to make a decision. So I hung up and went to class. Dad gets a debt collection letter over the $34. He goes, "Son, don't let $34 ruin your credit." Most of the people listening today understand how important your credit score is. and it costs you money if you have a bad credit score. And so he says, I'll pay the $34. And I said, Dad, it's not a money issue, it's a principle issue. You know, you always taught me you had your name and your word, character and principle. This is principle. He goes, all right, Mr. Principal, what are you going to do about it? I said, I'm going to tap the app and call the law firm. I did. They wrote a letter on my behalf disputing the validity of the debt, and it never hit my credit report. They zeroed out my account balance. And I'm thinking my dad's going to say, son, you're a genius. You're the smartest kid I've ever had, because I'm an only child. But instead, he goes, are you crazy? What would you do that for? Because most people, that wouldn't make sense. And I said, Dad, it was the membership. I've subscribed. He goes, let me get this straight. And this is the best explanation of Legal Shield. I'll wrap it up and turn it back to you. But he goes, let me get this straight. You sign up for the service and you could pick up the phone, call a law firm. They answer, they talk to you, they write a letter, and they don't charge you a dime. I said, yeah, it's covered as part of the policy. And he became a customer that day. And for 15 and a half years, he stayed a customer. And that's just a tiny microcosm to the things that happen, everyday problems, buying a car, selling a car, buying a house, selling a house, issues with a landlord, issues with an ex, child support, child custody, so many different things that people are like, what do I do? And the reason fear is real, you know, they say fear stands for false expectations appearing real. It's because we have no expectations. We don't know what the expectations should be. We're unsure. And that creates fear. And what Legal Shield does is clarify, simplify, and declutter things in life where people don't have a clear path. And we can take away fear and anxiety and allow people to worry less and live more. So, Mark, it was an honor to just chat for a few minutes. I stepped out of a masterclass meeting, but I just really love and appreciate you and your audience. And thank you so much for letting me share.
Alex, thank you so much for being here. I think that's great because one of the things, just to go back to what you said to start with, we know about the batteries and the power, but everyone knows that. I mean, they know that they've got to have battery, got to have power, sure. But the situations you talked about, that like that $1,600 for attorney fees for speeding tickets, a lot of people don't know there's a better way. So I so appreciate you bringing that up because, yes, we know about batteries, but to go to court, have legal representation to release what I call that stress shield. That was a great explanation. So, Alex, I appreciate it. Appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Enjoy
All
your
right,
meeting.
Alex. See you in a little bit, brother. You know, and Mark,
Uh,
as he, you know,
Andy, go ahead.
as you said, the stress shield, you know, whenever I talk about my personal experience with Legal Shield, I signed up for the program after something bad happened. And it saw, even though there were some pre-existing things that they couldn't do for free, they would do for a discount, but the things that they did do for free eliminated that problem for me. And what I learned was I was like, you know, the 4 months of stress, what I went through, the loss of sleep, the worrying, the loss of income, everything that happened to me in those 4 months, I think about, man, if I would have just given my friend the time of day and looked at a presentation. He tried to tell me about it over the phone. He invited me to check out a video that explained it. And I was like, man, he's my best friend from high school. Okay, well, Steve, I was like, Zach, just tell me what it is, man. I'm on the road. You know, I was driving a big truck, hauling a trailer and an excavator in the back. And he was like, man, well, you could talk to a lawyer about any legal matter and never get a bill. That's number one. And I was like, let me stop you right there. You know who my brother is, right? I can do that. I've got his cell phone number. I can text and call him. This sounds like great for everybody but me. And then 2 weeks later, the accident happened, followed by 4 months of. If I could go back and pay double or triple what I paid to become a member in the first place, I would, to not have gone through that stressful time, the lack of sleep, the making bad decisions, uneducated decisions. So I was having to sell jobs for the next month and get deposits to pay payroll for my guys for the current months that I was in.
Wow.
It was a very stressful financial situation. And I'm left with these, I didn't have kids yet, but I was left with these people who have kids and they're relying on me to pay their paycheck. And I thought I was going to get paid back from the insurance company. So I spent that money that was there in our business bank account to try to solve this problem. And so I signed up because of a stressful situation. And now I have less stress for the last decade. I think uh, I've experienced some of the most peace of mind in decisions that I've made for myself, my family, and my business that, money can't really buy. But actually there is a price tag on it because and Alex said something about his one of the small things he used it for that was a principal issue. I bought this phone. This is a very small thing, right? I just want to share it with you, and then I'll pass it back to you to ask me whatever questions are next. But this phone right here, whenever I went in and bought this new phone, I was there to buy headphones. They talked me into getting the new phone because of all the new bells and whistles it had, and
Right.
they kind of twisted my arm to get it. And at checkout, they said, "Hey, your new phone plan's going to do this, this, and this." And I was like, "Well, how much is that?" Because I have the unlimited data everything plan, and they told me it was only $42 more per month. But I was like, "Hey, look, I'm happy with the plan I have. Let me just keep that one." And he said, "Well, you can't keep that one on this new phone." And I said, "Then I don't need the phone. I'm here to buy headphones." So he's like, "Well, let me go ask." He goes to the back, comes back in, says, "Okay, we can do it." 3 months later, I'm getting $42 overcharged on my cell phone bill, and it was basically a bait and switch. I went back in there. The guy doesn't work there anymore. There's nothing they can do. And it's a principal issue. I could afford the $42 extra per month, but it was a principal thing. Like,
Why?
this is not fair. What if they're doing this to people that can't afford that? And so I stepped outside, tapped the app, sent in my previous bill and my new bill, and told the law firm what happened. I get a call back that evening from an attorney who writes a letter to this major phone company. I don't want to throw them under the bus because they made it right, but one of the biggest ones starts with, never mind, I'm not going to tell you. But a week later, I get a phone call from the president of customer service of this company, who apologizes, who reimburses me for the last 3 months of my cell phone bill, and says, "Mr. Entrekin," now there's some respect behind my name. And he said, "Mr. Entrekin, heard from your lawyer. Look, we messed up. We want to make it right. If you want to stay a customer with us because you've been a great customer for 12 years, we will prorate your bill to what you were paying before. Yes, you can't have the new phone with the old plan. The old plan doesn't exist anymore." Explained how the new one was better. So the legal plan that I pay $38 a month for my family, I've been saving $42 a month on my cell phone bill for the last 4 years. So we think about how
Wow.
much it costs. I think about how much it costs not to have it. Total paradigm shift. What does it cost? Well, it could cost you everything that you have, depending on what happens in your life. It could cost you everything. But I can tell
And
you that to
and
have this protection, peace of mind, it's going to cost you about $1 a day.
Andy, that is two great stories. Thank you for sharing those because one, you talked about a personal issue, and that's where the legal stress shield, the stress shield, the legal shield, and the even the ID shield. You're talking about that part for the personal side, but you started off talking about a company situation, right? So you're talking about both areas. It's not just one small area that Legal Shield comes in to help you with. There's a multitude of areas that we don't think about on a day-to-day basis. Everyday situations, as you mentioned, that can quietly create a lot of stress and a lot of uncertainty, right?
Yeah, and look, if you own a business or you're self-employed, business matters can become personal matters, and personal matters can become business legal matters very quickly. So the majority of my customers that own businesses, they bundle their business protection with their personal or family protection, and it's bundled and they put it on one payment and it's done and they have it when they need it. And
Mhm.
it just makes sense. Anybody that's ever hired an attorney before or has one on retainer, my friends that have attorneys on retainer that I play golf with and stuff, we'll talk about different things, and like, I'm not going to ask them that'll eat up my retainer. I'm like, yeah, for that one phone call that you reach out to and by the way, I still reach out to my brother for stuff. He's great. But I'm also his cheapest client. So, but this isn't something that replaces that. If somebody has a family attorney that's been with them for 3 generations, they can keep using that attorney, but they can use us for everything else. So
Mhm.
I believe that if you have kids, it's a necessity to have the app on the kid's phone in case they get pulled over, in case they need to hit the red button 24/7 if they're detained or arrested or seriously injured in an accident, or if somebody's knocking on the door with a warrant, or so it's one of those things that I really do see as a necessity, and I saw it before I started working with the company, which is why I was like, hey, you know what, this is the way, this is the future. Subscription based services, millions of people paying a little bit, the law firms getting paid a lot, You're not getting a cheap attorney. You're getting an attorney. You're getting a law firm that's making 6 to 7 figures per month to provide these services. So we're their biggest customer, even if it's a $42 issue. The law firm that's helping you out is getting paid, over $100,000 a month, if not more. Actually, all of our law firms make more than that. The law firm in Alabama where I'm from, 280 grand a month. So whenever I call or I reach out through the app, it might be a small issue to me, but we're their biggest customer. So sometimes I get calls back after hours because they want to make sure they get to me and answer my questions and make sure that I have the knowledge. Mark, I said this morning at an event that a lot of people, you've heard the phrase that knowledge is power. And if half of the truth is a whole lie, just ask your spouse. If you tell your spouse half the truth and they find out, it's a whole lie, guaranteed. But if half the truth is a whole lie, then I don't think that phrase is true. Knowing how to apply the knowledge is power. So we can Google and we can chat and we can do all this stuff and we can get answers somewhat to, or figure out what something means. But how do we apply that? I saw on a Facebook post yesterday, she posted to this Facebook group and she said, if I just print off a will online and get it notarized, does that make it a legal document? And there was a bunch of people on there saying yes, bunch of people on there saying no, bunch of people on there saying you need to get a trust, not a will, and all this other different. There was 30 to 40 people that commented giving her unsolicited. Well, I guess she asked for advice, but my
Yeah,
response was, it's more complicated than that, because
that's well said.
it's not the document. Is it documented correctly? Is it in the format that's accepted by the state and their probate and all of that? Like, there's so much more to it. So I just said, hey, it's more complicated than that. I have a solution if you want to hear about this. And I had a bunch of people comment on my post reaching out because I thought it was just one lady that'd be interested, but then 10 other people messaged me and was like, hey, I need to get that stuff done too. They want peace of mind. When it comes to people with families, or if they're getting older or they have kids or whatever, my poverty mindset was early on, before I grew into more of an abundance mindset, was, hey, why would I get a will? First of all, I don't have kids. Well, the reason I needed to get a will after I was 18 was so that my parents or loved ones didn't have to make a decision for me that should have been mine. So it was about, I was thinking about me, but those documents are thinking about others, so that they don't have to stress, so they don't have to guess, so they don't have to worry about what did I want to be done. God forbid something happens to me.
Right.
But in the
Well,
beginning,
let's touch on that. Just
pay my
sorry to
will or
interrupt you there because
pay my bills or get my will. And now that's not the question. Cost is off the table because people spend more money on coffee per week than our services cost per month for a family. Go ahead, Mark.
well, I like what you're saying. Cost is off the table, and it's all about Alex said you don't have to check your wallet to see if you can afford. Right, you're right. You do justice because you have that. But you mentioned a couple of things there that again, I don't think a lot of people realize. We talk about business, talk about personal, being an entrepreneur, but you also talked about wills and trust, and then you also talked about you have family that's an attorney. Well, what if you have an attorney that's working with your wills and trust, but you have questions and you don't want to call your 200, 300, whatever it costs dollar attorney? You can still call LegalShield, right? And ask
Yeah.
questions for whatever you need. Then you have the choice of using a LegalShield legal an attorney through LegalShield for 25% off of their cost, or you could still use your own attorney, right?
Right. Mark, do you know a doctor or a nurse or a dentist?
Oh, sure.
Does that just because you know those people and you could ask them questions, does that mean that you don't need health insurance?
Heck no.
It's the same thing. You might be able to get somebody to sign off on a physical or to write a prescription or something or give you some advice off the cuff. But do you want to talk to a foot doctor about a heart problem or a heart doctor about a heart problem? It's the same in the legal
But
industry. You don't want to talk
well,
to
I
your
joke with
estate.
my
Yeah, sorry. You don't want to talk to your estate planning attorney about a business legal issue. Or you don't want to
you,
have to talk to your family attorney about a consumer right matter, billing dispute, credit dispute, tax dispute, warranty dispute, insurance dispute, something that has to do with you spending money and not getting what you're paying for. Or what about contract law? You might have a situation with a landlord that seems like it's a real estate issue, but really it's a contract issue. So you might have somebody that's really good in real estate and understanding real estate law, but how good are they at contracts? See, in our app or desktop or whenever you call in, they're going to ask what's going on, and they're going to select the area of law, and then you're going to have a specialty lawyer from that area of law give you a call back within 8 business hours. Four business hours nationwide is our average callback time, but they have to within
Right.
8. It's just to me, it's just one of those things where you can find out what you should or shouldn't do, can or can't do, what other people can or cannot do against you in any situation, personal or business or family related, without inside that coverage. And again, that's that knowing how to apply the knowledge, knowing what you should or shouldn't do, can or can't do. I think that the stresses in life, like Alex said, like fear is false expectations appearing real, and I believe that stress comes from the unknown, the
Uncertainty.
uncertainty. And man, I really don't think that there's anything else that I've implemented in my life or business or family that's given me more peace of mind for that. We just finalized an adoption of one of our kids about a month ago now, and it was contested for the first couple of years, and so we got 25% off. But for the last year, it was uncontested, and I saved over $1,000 a month in legal fees, document review, you know, correspondence with the court, and all the things that they did for me. Every single month, I got a bill from the law firm that showed what they did for our case,
Yeah.
and then down at the bottom it said Legal Shield discount, and then it applied, and then the bill showed 0. And I paid the filing fee for the court early on, but that was it. And they showed up to court, and it didn't cost us a dime. But
Wow.
if we didn't have this service, I can tell you that there's people that don't adopt because of how expensive it is. They want to adopt, they have it in their heart, but they don't do it because they don't have resources. So man, I have a heart for business owners because I believe healthy businesses make healthy employees, and healthy employees make healthy families, and healthy families make healthy kids. And we're giving way too much, putting way too much on the shoulders of teachers to create good kids, when really good kids are created in the home. And if if the business is healthy, where the parents work or the parents own the business, then the home is healthier. And so for me,
And
man,
when you say that too, though, and I'm sorry, I just want to re-emphasize what you're talking about, because with that uncertainty, if you don't know in any of those situations, you can call. You've got a legal situation, trust situation, your will, anything to do with traffic tickets, things are happening at school, anything with your children. If you don't know, all you have to do is call, right?
yeah, call or tap the app. Most of it, Mark, I bypass the call because it's 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes of explaining myself on the phone whenever I could be, solving a problem with the 6 kids in my house, or talking to a customer. So I use the app. You tap the app, you hit
Okay.
request a consult, you scroll to it shows you all the different areas of law, gives you a description of, you click on it and it tells you here's some examples of that area. If you don't know, you hit other and they assign it after they review it. But I had my wife's car. She was rear-ended last year in June, and her vehicle was totaled. It was a 8-passenger Cadillac Escalade that she had. Somebody rear-ended her and told us. We had legal advice through the whole situation. Every single day, I feel like we were on the phone to to an attorney, just talking about making sure we're making the right steps, we're going to the right doctors, we're not incurring any extra expenses that the insurance company won't pay for you, because fortunately nobody was seriously injured. And then we got full payment from the insurance company for the covered parts of the policy. Then we bought a new vehicle, Mark, and I had it wasn't brand new, but bought the vehicle, and 4 months later it needs a new engine. Well, I bought a warranty on the vehicle.
Right.
So originally, the warranty company wants to deny coverage because when the check engine light came on, I drove it into the repair facility instead of towing it into the repair facility. There's a legal word that they use to deny my claim called continued use. And I had to get a lawyer involved to help make sure that their version of continued use and my thought process of continued use was the same thing because it seemed logical for me to, when the check engine light came on, to drive it in the repair facility, not pull over and have it towed because it was still running fine. Little did I know the engine was failing, and there were metal shavings in it and some other things that I couldn't, that weren't
Wow.
necessarily messing up the operation of it. But I'm telling you the story because I started this claim with a denial. After getting legal involved, I have just under $7,000 from the warranty company to go towards a replacement of the engine. And now they're helping me now go after the dealership to demand that the dealership stands behind the vehicle they sold me, even though it was used and sold as is. It was a 20-something thousand dollar newer Escalade that was promised to be in great condition and perfect for our family. And we bought it from them in good faith, not thinking that there were no underlying issues with the vehicle. And engines don't fail within 4 months unless something was going on and something was hit. Like, it just doesn't happen like that. So if it wasn't for, now that situation is still ongoing right now, but I have spent $0 extra outside of my monthly subscription to now have at least over half of the engine paid for by a warranty company that wanted to deny the whole thing. So
I don't know how many times that happens. I bet what you're talking about is not, one unique person out of a million.
no, the
That
lawyer
probably
that was
happens.
assigned to me said, Mr. Entrekin, he said, um, I see 100 of these cases a year. And he told me, he set expectations. He said it would be great for them to come and say they're gonna, you know, pay this claim. But out of all 100 or so that I reviewed over the last year, they all denied it before they approved it. So good for you for getting ahead of this. And
And you said it a lot right there too. A lot of people don't do anything. They see that denial and they don't know. They don't think they have another path that they can follow. They don't think there's anything they can do, right?
what if,
If they don't
yeah,
have legal,
they don't, because they know that they're going to have to spend $500 to $1,500 just to find out the traditional way. They think they're going to have to spend $500 to $1,500 just to have an attorney review that situation. So, Mark, what I tell people all the time is that if you use our services for one situation, it will pay for itself for a couple of years because our plans for legal protection for families, they cost about as much per year as a great attorney charges for about 2 hours. So you send a document to be reviewed, they're going to charge you for at least an hour for that document review. And then you're going to have a consultation on it and maybe a letter written on your behalf. You're looking at easy $1,000 plus. And our legal plan starts out at $360 a year divided by 12
exactly,
months, so $30 a month
which is usually about what an attorney charges for 1 hour.
for 1 hour. I've
Pretty
paid
much.
more than
Right.
that for 1 hour of an attorney's time.
Right.
So anyway, that's, I really enjoy this conversation because people, it's not that I believe in the best of all people. I know people are there's a lot of smart people out there. They just don't know that this stuff exists. So thank you for having this conversation with us to really help kind of get, peel back the layers a little bit to figure out why is it that people don't think it's important to protect their rights and their identity. And I think it's because they just really don't understand. Mark, when people tell me, no, that's not something I'd be interested in, it's because I don't hear N-O, I hear I don't K-N-O-W. It just because they're used to thinking that looking at things through the specific frame of reactive and defensive instead of proactive and preventative. So this conversation that we're having right now is talking about being proactive and preventative, which, like Alex said earlier about flossing your teeth, talking to the dentist. Preventative care is kind of like brushing your teeth. Going to a lawyer outside of LegalShield is like having or not getting something like LegalShield is kind of like not brushing your teeth until you have a root canal. Then there's it doesn't matter, no matter how hard you brush your teeth, you can brush them all day, but that root canal is not going to go out. You're going to spend thousands of dollars on that problem when you could have been spending a little bit here and there for maintenance and protection.
And like you mentioned also, was it you or Alex was talking about if you got an attorney on retainer, well, I don't want to go talk to him about that because that's small, but it'll still eat up my retainer. When you don't have to worry about that. Your retainer comes out in a small monthly payment, which, like you're saying, it's $38 a month. That's all you have to worry about. You don't have to say, well, I don't want to call him because it might use up my $38. It doesn't matter. You can use them all day long at $380 an hour, but you can find out what you need and how you need to handle the situation directly from the people who provide that service and that protection for us,
Mark,
right?
um, you know the difference between wealthy people and poor people?
Knowledge.
It's a mindset. It's knowledge. I think poor just stands for passing over opportunities regularly. It's a mindset. Broke is a situation, right? You can fix broke. You could be broke but not poor. If that hopefully that I don't know if that makes sense, but
Oh yeah, absolutely.
poor is a
Mhm.
mindset. Poor the poor mindset or the poverty mindset. And I'm not saying anything bad about people that have been. By the way, I've been broke. I have been in terrible financial situations before that were because of my own actions or the absence of
Or
good
lack of
actions.
action.
But there are two types of people. Just stay with me, y'all. Two types of people that use our services or that don't. But one of them is someone with a abundance mindset, and usually those people are more successful than the ones that think the opposite. And they look at our services and are like, oh my gosh, this is I'm going to I'm going to get myself protected with this, and if I need to use it, then awesome. I am saving more just by having it. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And then you got the other side of the
Yes.
coin. It's like, okay, I'm not going to pay $30 for something I don't use, or I'm not going to pay 40 or $50 or $100 for something that I'm not going to use, because they don't understand the value of getting answers, asking questions, making sure they're making right decisions for themselves. But they'll pay $30 a month for Netflix. Look, my Disney Plus costs more than a legal plan for my family. So I'm paying more for entertainment than I am for protection. But if I had to choose between one of the two, if I ever gotten that financial decision, I made a decision 10 years ago that I would never cancel this, no matter how I got financially. I'd find other ways to cut and trim the fat. Because when I signed up for this, Mark, in that financial situation I was in, I didn't know if my card was going to go through or not. I just did it, and I was hoping that I might get an overdraft fee or something, but I need this service because it might help me, and I was willing to do whatever it took to help myself get out of that stressful situation. And here we are 10 years later, and I've probably saved over $100,000 in the last 10 years by using these
Sounds like it.
services for myself
Mhm.
and my family. Yeah, Mark, what else? What else you got?
Well, I was going to touch on a little bit on that with what you're saying, because there's so many times you don't know. And people worry about that, $380 a year. But if you, as you mentioned, just one time that you use it, and there's so many times that you can use it that people don't think about. Why didn't you call? Why didn't you get on your phone, as you talk about? I'm old head. I'm going to have to try using it on the phone. I haven't done that yet. But just getting that point where people will make that call. Again, it's one of those situations that aren't people usually afraid because of that uncertainty to make that decision, to make that effort to get on that phone and hit that, what you call it, the red button?
Yeah, I
People
think
are a
most
little bit,
people deal with pride like we all do, and they, especially men, we want to have the answer and we want to not have to go to somebody else to get it. But what I've learned over the last decade is that this app on my phone through LegalShield and IDShield gives me that same access. I don't have to, I can make sure that the answer that I have to the question or the problem that my family or business or friends or whatever are dealing with, I have the
Mhm.
right answer. And so it kind of
And
allows me to make sure that, hey, yeah, I can be the guy that gets the right information to make the right decision for myself, my family, or my business. And I know we didn't touch
that
too much
is
on the ID Shields side, Mark, but
true.
the number one
Well, maybe we have
consumer,
just a couple of minutes left. You mind just touching on it real quick before we
yeah,
close?
the number one consumer complaint in the world is identity theft. All right, number two are problems. Number two through like 10 are problems that actually are legal issues that people would normally use an attorney for if they had Legal Shield or if they could afford a $5,000 retainer, right? They use attorneys for all that stuff. But let me hit on ID Shield for a second. Fraud and identity theft, you all know it's rampant. Everybody that's watching this, your information is already out there, and it's just a matter of when. It's already in the hands of criminals. And it's just a matter of when they use it. And by the way, they don't want the money in your bank account. They don't want your credit. I know some people say, oh, if they steal my credit, they're going to give it back to me. That's not what they want. They want your information because then guess what they're going to do with that? When the data breaches happen and they get everybody's information, they create profiles on millions and millions of individuals, and they sell those for pennies on the dollar millions of times. So they're making millions of dollars a year selling your information to other criminal enterprises and other criminals that want to use your information to do bad things, to get a loan in your name, to get a vehicle in your name, a payday loan, a job, a fraudulent tax return, maybe create an ID and commit crimes and not leave a paper trail that leads to them. There's so many things. Credit fraud, Mark, is only about 12% of the amount of fraud that happens inside that identity theft and fraud realm. Medical ID. I had a friend's dad who went in the hospital for routine surgery, and they almost killed him because someone used his medical information and had a procedure done, and the stuff that they saved into his records told him that he was diabetic whenever he wasn't. They almost killed him,
Wow.
treating him like he was a diabetic. And he found out that someone had if he had had ID Shield, they would have seen that somebody was using his information in a different state and getting stuff
And
done. I
told
know
him.
technology is great, but it doesn't always communicate the way it should. ID Shield is the most comprehensive identity protection plan on the market. And the reason that you haven't heard about it, like I said before, is because we'd rather pay individuals to get the word out about what we do instead of sponsoring your favorite athlete and spending more on marketing dollars instead of results. We're the most comprehensive, but we do the same thing that all the other ones do, monitoring everything that matters to your digital thumbprint, username, password, VPNs, anti-malware for all your devices within your family, username and password, financial account threshold monitoring. Anytime anybody does something with your information, whether it's public records or whether it's on the dark web, we find it, we notify you of the breach, what information is compromised, what the next best step is for you to protect your identity. But if somebody steals your identity, uses your information to commit a crime, like I said, it could be criminal character, it could be medical, it could be financial, whatever it is, they do something in your name, you have to prove that that was not you to get it resolved. And ID Shield is the only one on the market that I know of that has licensed private investigators that will restore your identity for you back to pre-theft status. Monitoring,
That is
we're the smoke
beautiful.
alarm and the fire department, the LifeLocks of the world and the other people out there. I'm not knocking them because it's important to have
Mhm.
at least a smoke alarm. But if you could have a smoke alarm and the fire department to put out the fire and the restoration company to build it back to pre-fire status
All under the same,
for the
yes.
same price,
Yep.
if not less, why would you not do that? So, Mark, I think
That's so true.
wise people protect their rights and make the best decisions for themselves, their family, or business. Wise people protect their identity because they know it's just a matter of time when something bad happens. And we're just here to make good people make even better decisions for themselves, their family, and their business.
Andy, that's so good. But we're running late on this one so much now. That was so awesome that you were able to do that. But I wanted to thank you and Alex for coming on, for joining us, for sharing that practical insight in such a clear and grounded way. Because the conversations like this remind us that protection, as you mentioned it before, is not about fear, which I call false evidence about reality, but it is about presentation. It's about preparation for this. It's about knowing who to call and that you can call and having confidence before that stress takes over. So, everyone listening, whether you're here today, you're listening on recording, hope today's discussion helps you see that small steps can make a big difference in unity and protection. And it grows when we reduce that uncertainty, like Andy has told us so well. And again, we move forward with clarity. So thank you for being part of this community, for showing up for these real conversations. Help us build better businesses, better lives, and a better world. Well, you got the QR code earlier. Get in contact with me. It's just markentrican.legalshieldassociate.com, or you can contact me at markentrican.com. Let's get together. Let's talk about it more. But until next time, Andy, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your ideas and concepts. Please tell Alex the same. I'll probably may talk to him tonight. I don't know on the call. But let us continue to transform complexity into execution, chaos into connection, and all of the purposes, especially ones we talked about today, into action. Let's continue achieving unity, all of us. Call me if you have any questions. 303 362-8733, 303 focused on your dial. Hope you always remember to keep that in your mind. Get in contact with me. Thank you all so much. This has been Mark Entrekin with Andy Entrekin and the Achieving Unity Leadership System, reminding you that life is truly what we make it. So let's help everybody. People feel seen, heard, and supported, protected through everyday moments that truly truly matter, and make life awesome together in unity, working together. Thank you again. Thank you all. Let Alex know. Andy, thank you for your message, helping others show up for one another as we continue the work at the intersection of dialogue, connection, and social healing. Andy, thank you again. I'll talk with you tonight. Everyone, give me a call. Get you back in touch with Andy. Back in touch with Alex. Let's make it happen. Hope you all have a wonderful day. I hope to see you all again next week. Till then, cheers.